Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Kerbal Space Program. We are back from our orbit around the moon, very successful in terms of, everything. It all went great. We picked up a bunch of science, and completed, I think, not any contracts, but, actually, maybe we did have a contract for that. I don't remember. Doesn't really matter. At any rate, we're back, and so our next step is a little bit unclear, but it seems reasonable to do this tourist mission. We've done 2 successful flights in a row to the moon, and we should be able to just swap out the science parts of our upper stage for a tourist part, and add on a heat shield, and basically call it a day. And we get like $150,000 for it, right? Like, pretty good deal. So let's load up the rocket we used to go to the moon last time, and just let's save this, and we'll call it the Moon Tour Bus, and just make a couple of small changes to it. So the first thing to do is to pull this section off. Indeed, we did forget to attach a heat shield. It didn't fall off at some weird stage. So there we go. Put one in. I guess actually we're removing this part too, so utility, and this is still the best crew cabin we have. And then the heat shield, which I left floating in the air here. Okay. So now, after we decouple, we'll still have a heat shield on the bottom of this crew cabin. And I don't know, maybe you don't even need a heat shield for your crew cabin. Maybe it's resilient enough, but I figure we're safer this way. And honestly, I think that's about the only change we need. We don't need these either. Is there any other, useful science stuff we could attach? Not really. One change it would be good to make... We turned down the thrust on these in the version that we actually flew. But I guess we didn't end up saving that? I'm pretty sure we turned... Wait a minute. This is the wrong ship. This isn't the one we flew to the moon. Did we not save that one? Don't save. This one's substantially more expensive, right? Yeah, this is the one we flew to the moon recently. Okay. We called it the Advanced Rocket 2. Okay, very funny. So we'll call this one the Moon Tour Bus, and make all of the same transformations to it. Pull off the sciencey bits, more sciencey bits, replace it with a crew cabin, attach a heat shield on the bottom, move. Wait, that's the wrong heat shield. This one. Oh, I guess it was the right one. Alright, whatever. What is the re-entry tolerance of this? Tolerates 40 meters per second impact. And 2,000 kelvins of temperature. So I think that we should be well within tolerances on our return, as long as we can stay oriented properly. Now, speaking of which, can we stay oriented properly? Are we going to be going fast enough that we flip around? We had that trouble at some point in the past. So something we could consider doing... Where is command and control? We could add a reaction wheel or something? If we really thought it was necessary? Yeah, that's ridiculous. We could add a large one. It seems a bit unnecessary. But... Oh, And if we do this, it'll be active for all of the stages and burning electricity. Now, we can turn it on and off if we remember, but I feel like I would probably just forget. And I think we don't really need it. I'm pretty sure, like, we have landed with crew cabins before, right? And it's been fine. And there's no reason it would be any worse this time than previously. We're not coming in particularly hotter than on previous flights, so. Now we still have a reaction wheel here, right? That is handy to have. It seemed like we had a pretty clean escape flight. So I think we should be okay to just take this to space, right? Not Jeb. Jeb keeps volunteering for these missions, and I really would like someone who has experience in moon encounters to take this for us. Jeb's only experience with a moon encounter ended with an explosion, so I'm not really too impressed by that. Okay, this looks fine. And remember, wait a minute, I should check, how much fuel did we put in these things? How much, not fuel, go recover the vessel. Sorry tourists, this is just, sometimes space takes a couple tries to get started, you know how it is. Just remembered to mute a couple of things that I forgot to mute before we started recording. They hadn't made any noise, but mute them just in case. What I wanted to check was the amount of fuel that or how quickly we have these burning. Because we were going so fast. Our orbit ended up so high, and I think we can fix that by just like tilting sooner. But then if we do, we're gonna be in atmosphere for longer, and maybe we'll have re-entry trouble, and so I'm not really sure, like, what changes to make to my flight plan compared to last time. Do I tilt more earlier? Do I make the rockets expend less thrust? Or apply less thrust, I guess would be the word. I think that the amount of thrust that these things had was about right. And I just need to get more of it horizontal to get a better looking orbit, is my plan. So let's take this. So okay, after all, no changes after recalling the vessel, but I just wanted to double check how it was configured. Okay, and so our heading is 0 degrees. W would send us north, so D will send us east, and that's what we want. Throttle down of quite a bit. With the advanced reaction wheel, we shouldn't need much help yawing over, I think. Turn on the SAS, though. Always helps to have SAS, I think. Check the staging. Wrong. There we go. Now it's right. So we should really fix that in the Space Center. I think we had to do that last flight too, and I just forgot about it. Saving it. Okay, cool. So in the first stage, these are all going off. That's perfect. We have our throttle just barely on. Tourists are on board. We have a qualified pilot. I think I'm happy with this. Actually, let's do one thing real quick. Would you get out? And, well, I guess it's not actually safe. I wanted to test that we do have... Well, actually, here. When we right-click on him, I see he has EVA propellant, which I believe tells me conclusively that we do indeed give these guys jetpacks. And look, if we zoom in, there's a jetpack. So if I ever feel like it, or feel it's important for mission safety, I can have a Kerbin actually let go of the ladder when they're on EVA. I don't think that should be necessary on this mission, but it's an option that I'm glad to know that I have. Alright, so all that out of the way, we are now getting ready, at last, to take off on this tourist flight to the moon, and see if we can do it in fewer than 3 episodes this time. Liftoff in 3, 2, 1, liftoff. Yeah, it looks like we're already tilting a bit left, so I'm going to correct that by turning right earlier than I might normally. Alright, that's a bit much, maybe. Try to keep the heading steady at 90. The thing is trying to roll. Let's tip over a bit more here. How's our apoapsis looking? Not very high yet, of course. That's fine. Tip over some more. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm rolling too much. We're pretty close to 90. I shouldn't be rolling so much. It's stable enough. Apoapsis is getting pretty high. Let's tilt over some more. Make these solid boosters work for us. In terms of actually sending us where we... yeah, let's pitch over like a lot more, turn off SAS, and pitch way over. We are rolling like crazy. Ugh. I'm having some trouble with that. Our roll is... alright, we'll get rid of the solid rocket boosters. What's our apoapsis look like? It's even higher than it was last time, I think. Ugh. Well, cut the engines. I'm having trouble getting that rocket to shift over to being all horizontal. It's just so beefy with all those solid things. They're fighting, trying to push us vertical, which makes it hard to we just don't have enough translational not translational, but rotational force to overcome the upness that those rockets want to give us. Or, I don't know, maybe we do and I'm just not piloting it skillfully enough, but certainly it's difficult. Anyway, here we are up in space already. And we have basically almost our entire liquid fuel upper stage remaining. So that's going to be plenty to adjust the orbit. Let's just add a maneuver here to burn prograde until we have a somewhat reasonable looking periapsis. Alright. That in fact looks like just enough. 94 kilometers over there. So we'll be burning for 1:42. And would you orient yourself prograde, please? Cool, so it's nice to have a node be able to plan this out as a maneuver instead of having to eyeball it. I don't remember if we did that in the previous flight, or if we eyeballed it. But, it's nice anyway. So 1:42 is how long we're burning. And we'll try to do it when we're... What's half of 1:42? 41 seconds? No. 51 seconds? Yeah. So when we're 51 seconds away, which is 30 seconds from now, we'll just jam on the engines and keep an eye on our periapsis, make sure that things actually go as planned. And after that, we'll just circularize at this end and then plot an intercept for the moon. We only have to fly by it, so we don't really have to be quite this cautious, I suspect. But, we have plenty of fuel, so let's use it. Okay, where is our real Kerbal periapsis? I can't, like... It's inside the planet, so I can't mark it as a thing I'd like to know about. So I'll just have to keep an eye on it when it appears. But it shouldn't appear yet for another 1:15, so... And when it does, it'll just suddenly regularize, I suspect. Yeah, can't even really see our orbit changing, but of course it is. We just have to get a whole bunch of velocity from up here in order to make this change. It would be better if we hadn't gotten so high, but that's life. We have enough fuel for it. Okay, this number is getting lower. Yeah, the orbit's starting to creep out around the Earth. Not the Earth. Kerbin. Where's our Kerbin periapsis? Show me that periapsis creeping out outside of the planet's surface, please. There it is. And at around... yeah, we'll stop right there. Cool. So let's delete this node. And we have a pretty reasonable orbit now. How much fuel do we have left? Not very much. Enough that we could lower the apoapsis if we wanted, I think. Or we could try to use this to get us in the direction of the moon. I think we'll just use it to lower our apoapsis, the same as we did for this stage. Regularize our orbit, and then drop this thruster so we don't have to try to use it to get to the moon and so on. We have plenty of extra fuel. It's fine to spend some just making sure everything's very by the book. Stop. Yeah. This maneuver node. Burn more retrograde, please. Keeping this apoapsis in mind. Get it down to 92? Yeah. Sure. 89. That's pretty low. But it's only 6 seconds of burn, so... Anyway, can we... warp to next maneuver? Orient yourself prograde when you get back, by the way. Retrograde, I mean. Retrograde. That's where we're burning. Cancel. Retrograde, please. Yeah, I'm glad we added this reaction wheel. It seems like it helps a bit in space, and it seemed to help during the takeoff as well. Okay, and we're still a minute or so away. We're not burning very much. It's really just a very gentle burn. In fact, I probably will not press Z to full throttle it. I'll burn gently and gradually. Okay, so how about just like this? Let's forget about this fake periapsis and look at the real one. And try to get that down. Watch our Kerbin periapsis as well. Make sure we don't send ourselves into the atmosphere. It's going down very slowly, so I'm not too worried about it. We'll throttle up a bit more. Kerbin periapsis still coming down as expected. Periapsis is still reasonable, and stop. A bit more? Okay, stop. And that's just about all of our fuel, so we'll jettison this stage. And now it's time to plan the moon encounter. Close this encounter node, we don't need it anymore. The moon is over here, and we have a roughly circular orbit, so we can burn from anywhere quite efficiently. If I had to guess, the moon's going to be about here when we get there, so let's try burning here-ish. Prograde, please. Something like that. No encounter at all, huh? That's interesting. Where even... Oh, we haven't set the target. Set the moon as our target. So that's where it will be when we do... Okay, so... Pull this knob a bit more. Why is this so small? There we go, it's bigger now. Get out of here, nav ball. burn more prograde. Not that much prograde. Alright, so that's an orbit at... We're going to miss it if we aim that way. We want to aim a bit further over here, which means burning later. Like this. Oh, by the way, how's our inclination looking? I hadn't even really checked that. Seems like it's kind of fine. It's our moon periapsis. 868 kilometers. That's pretty far. If we adjust it this way... Oh wow, this would shoot us straight out into space. Where... I guess we just don't have a periapsis if we shoot over there? How about like this? Our moon encounter... Moon... Where the heck is the moon periapsis here? That's further, that's... What about like this? The moon periapsis... 2 million kilometers. I can't figure out where we're supposed to burn to catch it at a reasonable closeness. This is 800 kilometers. Maybe I should just like burn a little bit less? Yes. 829 kilometers. Pull it that way a bit more. No, it went up. Burn a bit more. 822. Ah, jeez, I don't know. Alright, so it seems like we can't get super, super close with just adjustments around Kerbin. We can get to like 800 kilometers. And honestly, that's fine. We don't need to get into orbit around the moon even, really. We just need to get to an encounter to satisfy these tourists. And this will be enough. We'll just sort of rocket on by it, and we could adjust to an orbit and like circle back around. But we'll just take this. Stay in a Kerbal orbit. Slingshot out like halfway to Minmus. And oh, maybe that's one reason. Our orbital inclination is off by, it looks like, a fair bit actually. Maybe that's why. Yeah, it looks like our descending, no, I don't know. Whatever. If I could cancel our target. Actually, let's do that. The moon. Can I unset my target, I thought? I guess I can't, now that we've got an encounter with it. I don't know. I just wanted to see what our ascending and descending node looks like, to see just how far off our orbit is. We're clearly not at 90 degrees. Our heading is like 268. Who knows what that's all about. But anyway, we're about half an orbit away from where we want to do this orbit, so... From this maneuver, I should say. It's a 43-second burn, which is 15 minutes away. So let's just warp to here. And of course, we'll, you know, it's not going to be a perfect burn, so we'll have to adjust. We're not going to get exactly this trajectory, but it'll be something that gets us an encounter with the moon, I imagine. Start yourself up to prograde, please. And we'll just time warp a bit to get it to get closer to the node. We want to burn at about 20 seconds before the node. So okay. Reorient yourself again. Oh, we didn't let him finish getting to prograde. Alright, here he is. And, yeah, this seems fine. Let's throttle up now. Just full throttle, I guess. Estimate... What? Oh. Cut. I forgot to stage the engine on. Now the engine is active. Alright, we're gonna have to plan a new encounter. Can I just delay it by a day? What's gonna happen to us then? We'll still get to the moon. It'll be fine. Not a day in orbit. Let's take this encounter and, like, shift it. We don't even get an encounter if I do it this way. But like this, we do... Wow, what an interesting orbit that would be, huh? That looks kind of fun. Moon periapsis is 113 kilometers, but we'll come in, like, under it. And it'll slingshot us up and around into this crazy polar, almost polar orbit around Kerbin. That should be fun. We haven't seen the North Pole from close up before. Okay, so the node... It thinks it's a 10-day, 3-hour burn. I guess I'm gonna have to... It doesn't know how much thrust we have, so I'm gonna have to remake this, actually. But where it is that we want to burn is basically right where we just passed, plus a day, or an orbit. So right here, add a maneuver. We are 31 minutes from that area, and we just burn prograde until we get out near the moon. Whoop! Yeah, a little bit more than that to get it to slingshot us back, which I believe should happen. There we go. Look at this amazing polar orbit. A bit more prograde than that. Get us a Kerbal periapsis after the slingshot of 191 kilometers. 135. Using the scroll wheel here for slight adjustments. Oh shoot, I think I've been scrolling on like some of these other nodes and it's now doing crazy stuff. Ugh. Alright, let's clear this encounter and make it again. I keep messing it up. Add an encounter here. Maneuver. I keep calling them encounters. Throttle up. And get an orbit like that. Kerbal periapsis of 145 kilometers. Good enough for me. Okay, so we're... It still says our burn is 10 days! Does it not know how much throttle we have? Okay, I just had to turn on the engine, and now it knows how strong this engine is. It's remembering how strong the engine was when I tried to turn it on while we had no thrusters, I guess. Okay. So it's just 20 seconds. That's fine. Okay. So let's get out of here, node, and warp to here. And we're pointed prograde at the moment, which is good. That's where we want to be. This is a cool orbit. I like this. We'll try to make sure try to remember on the return path to make sure we land over the ocean, so it's just a bit easier to pick ourselves up. Okay, time warp complete. Get yourself reoriented to prograde, please. And in just about 10 seconds, it'll be time to kick... Actually, it's a 20-second burn. Yeah, so 10 seconds from now, we'll be at 10 seconds from the node, and we'll want to burn. So keep an eye on this Kerbal periapsis, please. Well, whatever. Go! Well, it's not working. Estimated burn a minute 30. What? Alright. Well, this is going to be a pretty dumb... It estimated it at 19 seconds, and now for some reason that we're actually here, it's estimating it as much longer. So we're not going to get exactly the orbit that we were planning for. But we should still manage an encounter with the moon. I don't think we're off by enough that that's going to make a big difference. Plenty of fuel. a few hiccups in this orbital transfer for sure. Yeah, we're gonna shoot wide. We're gonna hit it like here instead of here, I think. I don't know. Maybe it'll be fine. We really didn't miss periapsis by much, so maybe it won't make that much difference. How much time left? 30 seconds on this burn still. Yeah, 20 seconds seemed a bit low, but I didn't really think about it. Thinking about it now, it seems a bit low, but I didn't think about it at the time, I guess would be a more accurate thing to say. Okay, and let's throttle down a bit more gently so that we have time to react to when we start getting... Okay, it's fine. We're expecting this weird behavior. Keep throttling. Stop. Alright, brought our Kerbal periapsis down to 275 kilometers. Why is it changing? Did we enter the atmosphere? No. Engines are off. Oh, is this the one from our encounter? Maybe? Let's close the encounter. Maneuver. I still don't understand why our Kerbal periapsis is changing at all. I thought that the game knows enough about our orbit and our encounter with the moon to accurately simulate this. But I guess I'm not right. Alright, well, let's, how do I warp to my next encounter? Double click to right? To set focus? Can't I do that? Map, leave map view. I want to set the moon as my focus. I don't know. Well, here's our moon encounter. Let's just warp to it. The time warping text looks pretty dumb right now. I'm not sure what's up with that. Okay, we are now in orbit around the moon. And indeed, our contracts are all complete, assuming we get them home. We got a lot of excited messages about all that. Yep, very good. And we're just gonna whip around the moon. We're not entering that polar orbit. Oh, are we? Yeah, we are. Our orbit around the moon is going like this, but our orbit around Kerbal is going like this? I don't totally understand that. Well, whatever. Can I just warp to our escape here? Oh, I wanna, at least briefly look around while we are near the moon. There it is. So I think we're going basically under the bottom of it? Obviously, like, there's no bottom in space, but if we treat the moon's orbit around Kerbal and pretend that that is flat and horizontal, we're sort of going under the moon from that perspective. Yeah, not the best transfer we've ever done, but I guess we did it on purpose, right? We knew we were... If we wanted to get into orbit around the moon, we would have aimed differently. Cool. We can do a crew report. Why can I not? I was pointing... Is it because we're in time warp? If I stop, can I do one now? Yes, that's what it is. Alright, well, we already have the crew report high above the surface. That's what I thought. Cool. And I believe we would get nothing from an EVA as well, but let's just double check. Do an EVA report. Yeah, nothing. Okay, fine. Get back on the ship. I don't... You could get out and do some handstands to impress the tourists, but that doesn't seem very professional. I've never really looked at our engine. It's kind of cute. Oh no, that's not our... That's our heat shield. That's why it looks different. We remembered to bring the heat shield this time. Okay. Cool. So here we are flying by the moon. That was very exciting. Is there any way we can observe that the tourists are happy? No, they're just looking around like concussed ferrets or something. Very pleased with themselves, but not really any more pleased than they were when we were in space around Kerbin. Getting near the moon has not made them visibly more excited. So let's just warp to when we escape the moon's orbit. And we're headed back. To a periapsis of 275 kilometers. Oh, we'll clear our mooner target. Oh, we already had the moon target. We've unset somehow. Okay, well, whatever. We could do some burning out here to lower our periapsis into the atmosphere. Is that a good idea? I don't know. We have enough fuel to regularize our orbit, I think. This is kind of a weird orbit. I'm not sure what to make of it. I think it still thinks we're in, I see. It still thinks we're near the moon's orbit, I believe. So if we go just a bit further, we should suddenly no longer be, yeah. The orbit's changed colors because we are now no longer, yeah, okay. So what if I said that I wanted to lower my periapsis at Kerbin right now? If I were to like put a maneuver right here and burn retrograde, which is this way, keeping our periapsis in mind, we could bring it, no, this, hello? We could bring it quite low, quite cheaply. Don't burn quite that retrograde, maybe? Let's bring it... Yeah, that's the problem. We brought it into the planet with just even that tiny burn. How do I... There we go. I want to look at Kerbin and look at my periapsis. But still pull on the dang encounter node, please. There we go. Burn a little bit more or less prograde, I suppose. No? This way? Yeah. So, but watch that periapsis, because we want to like do a little bit of aero braking, I think, ideally. Just get into the atmosphere a little bit. 47 might be a bit much. Like 50 or, yeah, 60 something would be nice. I want to practice aero braking. Just like this. Okay, and that should bring us low enough. So it's just a very short burn here. That I think ought to bring us low enough that we lose some speed in the atmosphere, which sort of organically lowers our apoapsis all by itself. But we should bounce off the atmosphere rather than actually re-entering, I believe. This is a maneuver that I would like to try. We don't need it on this flight, I think. We could safely re-enter. We have enough fuel. But this is kind of a way to get to let the atmosphere slow us down and make that work for us. So let's reset our focus to the ship. Yeah, and if we just orient retrograde, we obviously don't need this actual encounter. We just had it to sort of look at what would happen if we did some burns out here. So what we want to do is get this out of here and keep an eye on our Kerbin periapsis and just burn gently. Real gentle burn so that we don't overshoot. Maybe not quite that gentle. I'm not sure how low we can afford to go without actually re-entering for real. maybe it's not a good idea to bring the orbital stage into the orbital stage engine into the atmosphere. But I think we ought to be okay. Alright, slow down, stop. Okay, 64 kilometers. That's just barely in the atmosphere at all. But I'm interested to see how much impact that has on our apoapsis. And if we have to do one extra orbit, it's no big deal. So let's just warp to... Get out of here. Why can't I set my focus to Kerbin? There we go. Let's just warp to here. It's basically going to take these tourists like an extra day to get home because of this maneuver, or half a day or something. Not a big problem. Why is it doing this weird shaky thing? This episode's getting a little bit long, I guess, since I'm trying out some slightly questionable maneuvers, but I think it's fine. Okay, so how high are we now? 225 kilometers. So one thing to note is we can actually bring our apoapsis down from here. We don't have to wait till we get to periapsis, right? So I could put in a maneuver, say right here, to burn retrograde, watching our apoapsis. And it comes in quite quickly, right? We don't really need the aero braking. We could regularize pretty easily. I guess this actually would bring us into the atmosphere if we burned this far out. So we don't want to do that. But we could bring our apoapsis down. Anyway, I don't know. Let's not do this. Get out of here, you dang encounter node. And let's just time warp gently. Oh, that's 54? I thought I got us to 64. We might experience effects. But I think 54 is pretty low. Or pretty not low enough that I'm too concerned. Let's see how close we are. Yeah, we are headed down into very thin atmosphere. And if things get bad, I'd really like you to be oriented retrograde at all times now, Neil Bald. Yes, good. He is doing that. Okay. If we end up being in the atmosphere too much, we'll just dump all of our fuel and jettison that stage if we can, if we have to. Just watch our periapsis. It's really not going down at all yet. We have not entered any particular amount of atmosphere. What's happening to our apoapsis? It is going down. So we're experiencing enough slowing from the atmosphere that it is bringing down our apoapsis. Not a lot, but some. And it's not really touching our periapsis yet, but it probably will. On the next go-round, we'll be traveling... Oh yeah, we just lost like 1 meter of periapsis. Yeah, is this visible at all inside the ship? Oh yeah, it's on fire. Amazing. That's actually a little bit worrying, actually, because the engine does not have a ton of heat shielding, I don't think. Maybe what we're doing is a bit reckless, actually. Well, we're already past periapsis, so I think we're going to be okay. We're not going to get into any thicker atmosphere. We're headed back out into space, and we lost, like, really not that much off of our periapsis. It was like 12.3 or something earlier, and now it's 12.1. But this is a maneuver we could take advantage of in an emergency, if we needed to. We lost some speed without spending any fuel. We spent a tiny bit of fuel out here to adjust our orbit, but of course we would have had to do that anyway to re-enter. We spent a bit less fuel to get ourselves into a high orbit rather than a re-entry orbit, and then lowered our orbit a bit by aero braking, using the atmosphere to slow us down here. So on the next orbital go-through, we'll just... we will just set a maneuver to like here to use up the rest of our fuel. Actually, we don't need any maneuvers. We'll just warp to like here-ish. 2 days, wow. Yeah, I guess the moon's pretty far away, huh? Okay, fair enough. And now we're going 3,000 meters per second, and I'm not sure exactly how much fuel we have left. So how long it'll take us to burn it all up. But, I mean, we're 2 minutes from periapsis. Oh, I forgot to orient, to try to aim for an ocean. It would be nice, wouldn't it? How would I do that if I wanted to? It's not clear at this point how to adjust. I could swing back around to the far end, of course, again. But what would I do once I'm there? I guess I would lower my periapsis really far so that I enter steeply here, but that seems like a bad idea. I think what I'll do is just orient myself retrograde here, burn everything up right now, and thereby have as... Oh, we might come down over this bay if we were super, super lucky, but I don't think we will. Well, actually, we're kind of going over a series of little lakes, maybe you might call them. I think actually this is... We're already at a speed that we can re-enter from. And I'm worried if we take this engine stage with us into the atmosphere, it'll be tough to get rid of it. So what I'm thinking is when we get to around 60 kilometers, I'm going to stop burning and jettison this stage. Yeah, let's flip around to prograde while you still can, before the atmosphere does anything too crazy. And just jettison this behind us, and get back to retrograde. Now, I don't know if that flip was necessary. It looks like we had enough speed that we could have jettisoned it in front of us. But I was just imagining the nightmare scenario where this part gets stuck to us because we're moving through too much atmosphere and the friction keeps it glued to us. So I wanted to make sure we were facing... we sent it out behind us instead of in front of us, just in case that makes some kind of difference. And this is a speed we've re-entered at several times before. We have enough heat shield. Neilbald is keeping us oriented properly. The only way I can imagine we got something wrong is if, like, the crew cabin has substantially different atmospheric, or aerodynamic rather, properties than the science bay, but I don't think it does. I think we should be okay here. Oh, oh, is that thing burning up below us? Oh, it's so cool! It's passing us! Wow, look at it go! And it made it through re-entry. If we had parachutes on it, maybe it would be okay. But, is that it? I guess so. What is it doing? Did it bounce off of the atmosphere? Is it going back up? Surely not. I don't know. I'm starting to worry about something. This is lit up. I don't know what it is. And we're still going pretty fast. So there seems to be some danger of something going wrong, but I don't know what. We're oriented as retrograde as we can get, though, so not much I can do about things at this stage. Leave it all up to Jeb. Not Jeb. Neilbald. It's just taking forever to burn off all this velocity. I'm not sure why. Seems like things are relatively stable here. What if I pressed F11 to see what is so hot? I guess it's the crew cabin. Don't know why. We're still going insanely fast, considering how low we're getting. Are we... Are we still in a circular orbit? We're just not lowering very quickly. Whoa, I lost track of the ship. Where the heck is it? It's invisible. Come back to me, ship. There we go. I think we didn't lower our orbit enough. We're actually headed, like, not back up into space, but... like, are we gonna run out of ablator? I'm glad I brought all 200 accidentally. Okay, it definitely would have been better to... so this is what happens if you come in and you leave your apoapsis really high at the other end, I guess. Is you just stay in the atmosphere for a crazy long time, burning speed, to lower your apoapsis back into the atmosphere. I would like to keep an eye on this ablator, please. I'm starting to worry about it. We are losing speed, but not very quickly. There's nothing we can do now but hope for the best. And I think we are probably going to be okay. But I confess I'm worried. Yeah, our orbit has now decayed quite a bit. Can I, like, focus? Yeah, on the okay. So our apoapsis is no longer on the other side of the planet, but it's not as low as I would like. This is such an amazing, and I don't know, like, I didn't think this was going to be the mistake that I made, you know? It was like, okay, we got back into orbit around Kerbin. It's a low enough entry. We've done re-entries at this speed before, but I guess not at this speed while so low, because being this low while at such a high speed means our apoapsis is really high, which I hadn't really thought about what impact that would have. Basically, it just takes us a lot more braking to get down to speed, and I think the ablator's going to hold up. We've only burned through half of it, and I believe we're more than halfway through our re-entry. I think, right? We started at 40-something kilometers, and we're now down to 20-something, but our speed is down to less than half of what it was. And, I don't know, we're over an ocean, so I wouldn't mind any second now if, oh yeah, the ablator is cooling off now. Looks like we made it. Whew. Alright. So there's always something new to learn on every mission. Even what seemed like a routine trip around the moon, we learned several things. Most importantly, I think, about re-entry hygiene. But, you know, we learned some stuff about getting accidentally into a polar orbit around the moon, and I forget what else. We did a slightly better job of our exit trajectory. Whew, alright. It is safe to deploy the chute, so let's do that. And just, like, yeah, do that. I want to be slowed down as much as possible. I'm still nervous about that, Oh, there's a cut parachute button. I never noticed that. So, definitely not a thing we want to press now. But, we're coming down, just missing a body of water? Maybe? I don't know. Deploy the chute, like, 3,500. Because I don't know how high this is. Okay, we're coming in okay. And we deployed the chute way higher than necessary again. We deployed it at 3,500, and it stopped us to a safe landing speed at 2,500. So... actually, I remember reading that... no, what? Hello? I want to look at pilot's view. There's a radar meter in here somewhere that tells you your surface altitude. But it's sort of logarithmic, and I don't know how to read it anyway, so... we're at about 2,000 right now, it thinks. This says we're at about 2,000, so I don't know. I guess we could have left it. But, okay, let's just time warp ourselves back down to the ground. We're not going to quite land in this lake, it looks like. That was a stressful re-entry. I didn't have to touch a single button, but I was sweating over all the buttons I wasn't touching. Leaving that in Neilbald's hands. And that was the first time we got a real workout out of our ablator, and we learned the importance of circularizing orbit on the way back in, is so that you don't have so much excess velocity to burn off with your heat shield. If we had braked by burning our engine much sooner, we wouldn't have had this trouble where we ditched the engine early to ensure that it didn't cause re-entry problems, and we would have had a lot less excess velocity to bleed off. But I don't know, the fact that we were able to do that makes me a lot happier. Alright, so here seems to be the land, and we're basically at sea level here, but 63 meters. So if we had deployed the parachute at 1,000 meters, I don't know that we would have been okay, because it took us about 1,000 meters to slow down to a safe landing speed. But then again, you know, the atmosphere probably would have dragged us a bit before deploying. It probably would have been okay. But I still have a lot of parachute anxiety in general. So, and our electric charge. Wait, turn off the SAS jet. Yeah, okay. He was burning electric charge, trying to keep the thing from tipping over after it landed. All right, let's recover this vessel. This ended up being an extra long episode. If I'd realized that we were going to have so many hiccups in the middle and end phases, I would have tried to cut it into 2. Oh well, you guys get a long one today, I guess. We got some science from our flyby of the moon. We recovered very little in the way of funding, but we got a bunch of funds. Yeah, level 1 tourists, amazing. We got a bunch of funds for completing our contract, and yeah, here we go. 150,000 bucks, 21 reputation, and most important of all, we are now safely on terra firma, alive. That is a thing that seemed in doubt for a moment there during the re-entry, and we've gained some extra confidence to use in our next endeavors, advancing the cause of science on Kerbin. Hope you guys enjoyed what looked like it was going to be a milk run, but turned out to be a little bit more harrowing. Hope you enjoyed this flight, as I hope you enjoy all these flights. Anyway, what a long, drawn-out outro, right? Why don't I just say thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.